Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sunday School Charting and Trading Session this Sunday evening, May 19th. I hope you all had a wonderful, relaxed weekend, and now we can finish relaxing but studying together to prepare for next week. All right. And to kick us off this Sunday, I'm going to get our mindsets right with a quote around grace or mindset around grace. All right. The grace of a higher power is with me, and I move through life knowing this. I believe in a higher power, and I know that it is within and around me, offering assistance and guidance. I surrender all my fears and burdens to a higher power. I am open to receive grace, and I trust in a higher power. I am worthy, right? We are worthy of this market. We are worthy of being day traders and profitable day traders. We are worthy of everything that you desire. Okay. Worthy you are. And we're going to embody that and believe that. All right. So that will be our mindset for today to just get us warmed up here. Good evening again, anyone who has just joined us. All right. And we'll start off with fundamentals. We'll get our fundamentals going and we will go from there. All right. We have a few different news things I would like to point out to you guys. First and foremost, we'll start with our Forex Factory, then CNBC and Benzinga, but we'll have some add-ins. So with Forex Factory this Sunday, we do see that Federal Chair Powell was to speak at a commencement, I think at Georgetown. But did y'all also find out he had COVID? He got COVID from going to Amsterdam. Anybody else hear that but me? Okay. So I'm not 100% sure if this speech happens or not with him supposedly having to work from home now with him having COVID. Right? Yeah, Esther, I should have. He went to Amsterdam, came back with COVID. Great. So he's like, he will, I don't think it's a commencement ceremony, y'all. So I don't see how anything he would have said, potentially say in this type of speech that could move the market, but you never know. He has COVID. So you guys, I'll find an update after this call, unless you guys beat me to it tonight. On if that speech actually took place, because yes, he has COVID. It came out on Friday that he came back with COVID. So there's that little bit of news. All right. Moving on into the rest of the week from the Forex Factory's perspective, we are going to have 2 days off, and then come Wednesday, we have the FOMC meeting minutes. Now, I have scheduled us to do our call, a little bit of housekeeping, a little different introduction today. I scheduled us to meet Wednesday morning, Wednesday morning at our 9 a.m. pre-market to market opening analysis time. Of course, the FOMC minutes come out in the afternoon, and sometimes we can have a little fun ride at 2 o'clock. Sometimes it does nothing. Sometimes it just finishes doing a move. We'll see what we have by May 22nd. If I feel like we're going to get a move in the afternoon, of course, I will pop up and we can enjoy that move together. On Thursday, we have unemployment claims and flash manufacturing PMI, and then we only have revised University of Michigan consumer sentiment on Friday. So Thursday will be our early morning day this week. All right. And every other day will be standard time at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll throw that in there for. Okay. So CNBC. All right. Looking at other headlines. Soaring debt. I can refresh it. Let's see. Okay. Soaring debt and deficits causing worry about threats to the economy markets. You guys know how the weekend goes. It can be kind of a little bit of fluff news just to put something out there. Microsoft had to unveil its vision for AI PCs at Build Developer Conference, and then media giants lean on sports as Hollywood strikes still loom over content slates. So, I mean, I could potentially see that. Sports can be fun to watch. I've not been watching sports as much lately, but for those of you who keep up a little bit, which I am one to keep a little bit, NBA finals and things like that are going on currently. Baseball fans, baseball, I can't keep up with their seasons way too long. They play way too many games. That's not one of my favorite sports. So I'm a basketball, football kind of girl. But hey, if that's what we're doing for the news is while we wait on Hollywood to make more movies, that's where we're at. Speaking of movie though, in Hollywood, I went to the movies this weekend and I saw this horror movie, Tear. And it was just, it was a horror movie. But the trailers of the movie is what I want to speak on first, which is the new movie coming out from Apple called Fly Me to the Moon. All right. So I'm just gonna leave this out here and then I'm gonna answer Esther's question. And we could talk about it later, especially after the movie come out. Maybe have the trading psychology session on it. But the Fly Me to the Moon is kind of unveiling the truth, if people want to believe it is true, that we never went to the moon. And that whole thing was staged and recorded like a movie. And they're making a movie about it. I'm excited because I can't wait. And there's already things coming out of the NASA trying to, oh man, it's just gonna blow up in so many ways. But I'm gonna leave that there as a movie. Yeah, Jasenia, I already did Fly Me to the Moon. And they're talking about it, and it has some pretty great actors and actresses in it. One of my favorites, Scarlett Johansson's in there doing her thing. All right, so I will tempt you guys to check that out. Y'all know how I am about Hollywood or certain I'm gonna say just Hollywood, but just film in general likes to throw out little secrets, right? So I'm all for that. All right, so that's that. Moving on, just Esther had a quick question. What time do you open the crib on the early days? Sorry, I missed last week. No worries. 8:15 a.m. So it's like 15 minutes before the 8:30 red folder. That's a mindset we kind of get started and we just kind of jump right in. And then we take a break. And then at 9, we come back in with everything that we typically do for the stock market. But for the futures call, because most of us are futures, we're chatting overnight and things like that. I am expecting you guys to do most of your homework. So we're ready to just jump in and take advantage of that. That red folder announcement, right? Like on time. So we're doing a little bit of a recovery, but I'm expecting y'all to have most of it done. And then we'll do our whole review of the market and things like that at 9, all the other tickers and pre-market move and same thing from there on out to about the same time, 10:30. But I'm starting to get itchy wanting to take that, I've been taking that 8:30 folder. I feel like I just share it with you guys, that excitement. And I think it's been working. Most of you guys are here bright and early and ready to go. So it's fun. It's fun to watch it move. All right, Benzinga. I saw this 5 things Warren Buffett says you need to do before recession hits. See, I don't know if this is one of those gas headlines. Like, we see what the market will, I will go over it in detail, right? We see what the market's kind of trying to set up. I'm trying to figure out if they're throwing out like recession headlines to make you feel like it may drop, but then it's going to run up a little bit. And then news headlines like this are going to go away and then it may drop, and this is some sneaky stuff. Like, I'm always aware of their like sneaky shenanigans that they like to do to get the setup that they want, right? So that's just all trending news. Of course, there's a few other headlines. Benzinga had the headline about Powell getting COVID, but I'm sure you guys can find it. Because it definitely was there. You just got to Google it. It'll be there. But that's about it, unless you guys want to bring in anything else. outside of these other headlines, Apple's I control iPhones and things like that, and see how that's going to work out. I always let Apple get the kinks out first before I'm big on buying and being like one of the first few to buy their products, but I usually let the first like flood of devices, like that first shipment, that's what I say, the first shipment hit, do its little kinks, and then I'm like the third shipment. I'm still and like, and then all y'all, and then everybody else joins like way later. I'm like after the product's been out for a year or two or something like that. But that's me, so I'll see. Um, let's see. Just saying, said they're always taking new traders' money with their news. Yeah, quote unquote news. I agree. I think that's really all it is, just paying attention to the charts. So if you guys don't have any other news that you guys want to bring in, we have the fundamental queen in the house tonight, ladies and gentlemen. so, so if she has anything to add, we will lovely take it. But if not, we go straight to the charts and dive in. All right. So of course I have my charts cleaned. And except for ES, I did do some pre-charting, I would say pre-charting on Friday after we closed and got a lot of it done. But we're gonna jump into SPY. And then I can come down and do ES together again from a blank chart, right? But I'm gonna leave what I already have charted as a guideline for those of you who may have be ahead of the game as well. And kind of like, Randy, I just want to see what you did and go from there. So there's ES from the weekly. And then we'll look at SPY starting from the monthly because I just want to point out some candlestick patterns. All right. All right. Let's do it. So for SPY, we see that last week we closed with this very bullish engulfing looking candle. Not 100% engulfing because the previous candle has a wick that is penetrating down beyond the close of last week's candle. But what I really want you guys to pay attention to is this overall like cradle pattern, right? That we have. So the cradle came up, hit the neckline, and then kind of came up a little bit above and it's kind of chopping in this area here. All right. Could it continue? Of course it can. It can continue up. Could it pull back some more? Yes. Now, here's the thing about this like recession news. If you just, I would calm your thoughts, ladies. But if you want to, so this is the Warren Buffett recession hits. Okay. If the recession was coming, I think we would see it from a weekly, monthly time frame and like our pattern starting to form and what could turn around, or if we're potentially going to have a failed pattern. Now, ES has a similar bowl shape like this. It's a little closer to its neckline to where to me it looks like it could fail if it wanted to, whenever it wanted to. It's just a matter of it making its decision. Now, what I do like about it not failing, if I want to say that the news is a bunch of hocus pocus, is the fact that it made the large U, and then we have this little like handle here. You want to call it like a little cup of handle already, and then it's continuing up, and then we have like a continuation potentially coming and continues from there. But the pattern looks slightly different if I pull over ES. Let me do, I'm gonna change this to the blank chart. Okay. Then monthly. All right. So similarly, ES continuous, I think looks better for what I'm trying to show y'all. Let me just go to it, because I've been studying aggressively. Okay. so this is what I mean, like it being closer to its neckline a little bit. So that's a little deviation there that we have. I wouldn't put too much emphasis on it being like, oh, right now it still looks like it's going to continue up a little bit. But I want to know how it's going to chop around in its continuation up. And this big U with the little U being higher, is a good sign for it to continue up overall, right? We weren't sure how far it wanted to pull back down once it got to this level. And we can still come down this week, and this could just be another block, right? So we don't want to get too eager. We're like, oh, this is not a breakout pattern by no means. And if I come back side by side, it's not a full breakout. This candle is a little high. I agree. I'm not saying it's not. I just want you, a breakout in this case, for instance, like when we were breaking out of this zone, right? We had the candle come up and meet it. Then we had the next candle come up and kind of make a decision. Then the third candle is really our breakout. Now I know from this perspective, it's like, Randy, I would have missed a trade by then. I know. This is why we use a daily and things like that to get in sooner than that. But my point is, from just the candlesticks perspective, it's that third candle that you really want as a conservative breakout candle. So this one, it looks great. And if everything happens tonight in our favor, like I think it could, and especially since we don't have news till Wednesday, we could continue to just run up a little bit for shits and giggles. So with that being said, let me scoot ES over. Actually, I'm gonna go straight to a full SPY chart and let's do a Fibonacci. I'm not even gonna do the rest. The other stuff, I mean, if you want to mark, the only thing I will do is mark, before I leave here, I will mark where the next monthly fair value gap opens, right, on SPY, which would be 483 area. All right, and mark where the one that we're in closes, just in case we bounce down on it and you understand why. All right, and then from here, we'll do Fibonacci. And then we'll come into the smaller time frames and kind of pick in, because we know SPY got a lot of gaps. I'm trying to keep this chart as clean as possible. So we're going to do monthly fair value gap close. That's the current one that we're in. And if you want to put something, because I'm not going to put a line up here because I know I'm going to get some with Fibonacci. So if you want to add a note like current, like we're currently in that fair value gap, whatever, I don't know, trader's choice. And then we'll label 483.66 as a monthly fair value gap open to the next one. All right. Now from here, we can come down to the weekly. All right. We like how price came down a little bit. Looked like it still, to me, not out of the woodworks to give us an M. It depends on how much this wants to go up and then potentially turn around. And just seeing your comment, Esther, sorry. So I just sent an article from CNBC. The Iranian president helicopter crashed today and his condition is currently unknown, not a good sign for the open market. See, this is why the fundamentals queen. So I do my search, but it's a team effort. I love you, ladies. So make note of that. I want to dig deeper into that for today's call. Iranian president. Politicians getting hurt. So we have him hurt. We have Powell sick. Who's next? I feel like y'all should all retire and give the jobs to somebody in their 40s and 50s, but I'll digress and I'm gonna just shut the hell up. Jesus. Oh my God. All right. So got it. All right. So we'll see how we do here. We could also very well continue up. This is a very nice, like, strong bounce here. So we'll see how we want to play it, of course. And we'll just play one candle 1 week at a time, like we've been doing. All right. So from here, the weekly, I don't think I want to do a fib from the weekly. If I did a fib from the weekly, let me do a few different things. Let's play in the sandbox. Just because for my swing traders in the house is what I'm thinking about. My long-term people that like to hold. So if I were to do a Fibonacci going up, because the prediction is the trend is going up right now, the swing low, right, I would be the one all the way down here where we have a little bit of kids left in the weekly fair value gap. All right, remember that, kids left in the weekly fair value gap. This is why I've been saw it. I'm just taking it up, down, whatever, and then when it comes back, it will come back probably with a vengeance. So it just depends on how this forms up here. So we'll put it down here. So that's dragging it to about what, December 18th area of 2023. And then my high would be December. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong date. March. Woo! March 25th. Let's do April 1st. Yeah, I'm gonna take the April 1st candle because it's a little bit, they're about equal. All right, so that area will be my high. All right, and we'll stretch it up like that. If we do that amongst SPY, our next level, and let me just, I'm gonna hide this line for a second. I'm gonna hide this one, okay? Just to keep it clean from this perspective. I don't want too many lines here of confusion because usually I've been testing this a little bit a couple times and it usually comes up and kisses that negative 50% without a problem. Just a matter of how you draw this fib. So we're gonna draw it a couple times here. So this is gonna be draw number one, since we're up in this area. All right. Of course, you could put other fib lines between there that will help you understand where price is hitting, right? Esther showed us that how she has added that like negative 0.382 and negative 0.618. So like if I add those in there, you get those two levels as well. You get 545 and then you get 552, 559 and 60. So like you get a few different levels. You can add as much as you want. But for me, I prefer to keep it at just negative 50. Okay. All right. And then I'll use some of the clues in there to help me out once I come down a time frame. But this is where I got the Fibonacci so far. So 552 seems so far away from the weekly, but that is where it would be. All right. We're going to do probably a fib on fib situation. So I'm going to drop down to the daily. Okay. And from the daily perspective, if I were going to draw the Fibonacci, Lord have mercy, this is I'm gonna go from, I know we're doing this a little different, but we're in this all-time high area. And I just want to get the fibs out before I do the fair value gaps. And I think most of you guys know the fair value gaps, but we have a lot of the charts that we can revisit how we chart from just the fair value gaps. But we're in all-time high territory. So I'm gonna overlap fibs. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is the second fib, I'm gonna take the Wednesday, May 1st candle. Wednesday, May 1st candle. And I'm gonna pull it up to I don't really, this is I'm gonna do this where we like had two consecutive candles because I'm not sure where this current Friday's candle is kind of not clear. So I'm gonna go to where I know we really kind of stalled. So I'm looking at May 13th candle, 12th or 13th Trader's Choice, but in that area. That's gonna give you a shorter fib. And now your negative 50 is gonna be at 534, right? 534 seems better as far as holding a day trade or a couple days, right? Without too much risk. So that's where price could hit its head and bounce back down. Of course, you have the fair value gap, that daily fair value gap with the physical gaps. Let's zoom in close here. All right. Look at how these two fibs are kind of sitting. So the smaller fib is sitting right at around where that gap would close. All right. If it was gonna, if price wanted to fall down to close that gap, that is the move that I'm thinking it may want to do sometime this week. I don't know how it wants to potentially penetrate down here, but it may. If it's gonna fake us and not do it all the way, what we're gonna have is a consecutive buildup of candles bouncing out the fair value gap up here. All right. Once we see that happen, we know we're gonna get a breakout at some point. We're gonna come down to the 2-hour and the ES a little bit and investigate how that breakout situation is coming. And so we can better choose which direction is gonna break out in. Okay, because it can beat and then it beat up last week and then like it struck down right quick through fair value gap and then came all the way back up. So we got to see the vibe here. Overall, let me come back to the daily. I think what I want to do before I come down to the 2-hour is mark the opening of this gap with the purple line. And the opening of that gap on SPY is 525. All right, the close of it is 523, this lower fib. All right, and that's the only line I'm gonna put. I'm gonna leave it just like that because we got a lot overlaying, okay? I'm come down to the 2 hour. I just want to know exactly where that gap lines up from the daily. All right. And from the 2 hour, of course, this pattern looks like it could chop around and continue up. Tonight's futures will give you your information to know kind of what SPY is going to be feeling like in the morning. And we'll see where we go from there. I really am curious about how we want to test this gap below. I really am, really, really am. Before we continue to make an all-time high, or even test up and make like a little all-time high before we come down to do that. I'm interested to see how we do. We're gonna just pay attention to the 15-minute, right? And find out that way. So for me, I'm gonna leave SPY kind of fibbed up because we're at that top. And then the 50% of the fib is always going to help you figure out it comes right into these lower gaps. So it's perfect for it retracing back into that W. You can still see the W from this perspective, and it can come back right into that this neckline here. All right. But of course, we have a bunch of order blocks that we have to clear through. So we're going to play it patient and wait for that red folder as well to give us a jolt, or wait for some type of news to help give us a jolt. Okay. All right. So moving to ES and how I charted that one for our ES move that should be coming up in 30 minutes or so. Woo! Give me a second, y'all. All right. So the global news might sweep us down, then bounce back once they find him alive. That's true. See, it's stuff like that. Like, oh, but he's alive. I agree. I totally agree. That's hilarious. All right. So let's chart from the weekly. All right. Let's chart ES from the weekly. Okay. Where, of course, if you haven't moved your line, you should still have a line here. I'm always just reciting for those who missed it and give you guys a clean set of eyes. But if you have not moved your line, you should have one at around 49.28, which is a fair value gap that has kids left in it, right? And that's that weekly fair value gap with kids. All right. And then from here, we're going to move up because we always want to acknowledge where we have kids into the fair value gaps that we just created from last week. So we will section off these two. And trader's choice how you want to incorporate the little baby one here. To do 2 sets, or you can, just send you GOG or GIN, or y'all come with y'all own acronyms. I'm proud of y'all. Just whatever you want to do. Gaps on gaps and GINs and NWOGs and dogs and EWOCs and all that stuff. All the above, y'all. Y'all know how we do up in here. All right. So weekly fair value gap open at 52.16. And then we have a weekly fair value gap close. Oops. At 51.68. All right. And then we can come down to the daily. I'm not drawing a fib just yet for futures. Just give me a second. Because with futures, because I'm doing no more than like $15 to $20 at a time, sometimes it's better for me to use my fair value gaps and order blocks than it is for me to use Fibonacci. Fibonacci really only matters when it's like running up. And even then, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I literally sat there like, I don't think you just really running. Like Thursday after I took my private, I was like, or what was that, Wednesday? Well, y'all know what day it was. No. So you just be patient with yourself, know what you can handle. So from this daily perspective, I'm going to go ahead and mark the daily fair value gap close at 52.75. 52.75 or 74. The close of the current fair value gap, right? This is how I got the chart, okay, for ES. And then I think I came down to the 2 hour. I can't remember what I did. I'm doing something different now. It's okay. Similarly different. All right, let's come down to 2 hour. So from the 2 hour, let's get an all-time high as well. All right. So from the 2 hour, of course, we can go ahead because we can mark the 2 hour fair value gap open here. So we use our dotted lines. 2 hour fair value gap open. And then the close kind of matches with that daily close, right? And of course, we have to pierce back below this order block here, or this small one to get this one. And it's potential. We could potentially do that. So it's trader's choice because we're tipping down into the weekly fair value gap open again. If we come down here, there are kids left in this one, so keep that in mind. So you can label this one 52.67. You can label 52.67 as the 2 hour fair value gap open with kids. And it's interesting how it's a nice, like, even number, really close to 52.70. So could have potential for it to come down here. And I would be taking profit like 52.70, keep it nice and even. And if it does anything else, I'll just wait and go from there. That's if we get the turnaround. We don't have it just yet. I'm still charting the bottom here of support. If you want to acknowledge the close of that fair value gap, the close of the fair value gap is 52.50. So the 52.50 is the close of the 2 hour fair value gap. All right. Now, up at the top, okay, we wicked. Oh, one more support. This one right here. All right, we wicked into it. I humbly took profit halfway through, and I would only acknowledge the close of it, which is at 53.03. All right, and then we'll hit the level of resistance. It's on the 15-minute. I gotta go down a time level. So 53.03 is going to be the 2 hour fair value gap close. Another one, right? A little higher up. So if you're not surprised what price went, and this is probably where I will put stop losses for tonight if you were trying to trade something going up. Okay. That 53.03. Now, if we come down to the 15-minute, because we're reading like, why does the chart look like it's going up this way? And why do I think it's not going to stay 15-minute? All right, the reason why it looks like it's going up because we have kids left in this little 15-minute fair value gap and it's tiny. So based on what it's doing and how it looks, I expect price to come up here to 53.37 and clear out the rest of this liquidity just because of how it's stalled. All right, so this is going to be a 15-minute fair value gap close with kids because there's kids in it, so it needs to come back up here. All right, and then we'll clear that out. And then if I come out, let's come back out to the 2 hour. And let's acknowledge the tweezer tops. All right, so this will be the 53.42 will be 2 hour tweezers. All right. And if you go back down to the 15-minute, you see the area of chop that we would have to go through, you know, to reach up there. And then of course, the wicks to break through it. All right. Of course, we have some smaller fair value, 15-minute fair value gaps as well that tonight price is either going to open in a way that we can get this first. I don't know which one it wants first. That's what's going to come down to. Which one you want first? Top of the bottom, I don't know. Pay attention to the 15-minute and the 3-minute candles to further pick a side. If you was going to scalp this few couple dollars, it's $10 if you take the 53.37. if you take it down, be careful that it actually wants to come back down through here and not chop and bob and find support down here at 53.14. So 15-minute fair value gap close. Right. So especially if you were trying to get it to come all the way through, like for the $13, it's gonna be a little risky depending on how it wants to bounce off. It just depends. I'm not saying it can't give you what you want. Just let's make sure we're reading the candlesticks. So $8 to retest the top of it. Again, you want a good signal from the candlestick patterns on the 3-minute. Oops. Button. And then of course about $9, like I said, $10 to take it up to the top. I'll probably bet on the top based on what it looks like right now more than the bottom, but I don't know how much it wants to chop in between and to make it happen either, because that can be frustrating. You just have to pick a side and trust it if you're going for that. But definitely be a small scalp. And then from there, I would wait and come back in maybe tomorrow morning once the market makes a move. If it's even gonna make one, we can have a couple of days of chop. I'm not kidding, because we don't have any red folders. So I'm just interested to see. And then what other news will populate with no red folders, right? Like something else will just take the market off. All right. Okay, God, yeah, okay. So here we are. All right, any particular questions regarding SPY and ES, our faithful ATM machines of what we do, our primary income for some of us. I know it's not all of us. SPY and ES. And if not, of course, we can get on to the other tickers. All right. All right. If y'all don't have anything, then let's keep going. I'm not sure where you guys want to start this evening. Start anywhere, cleaned up everything. Of course, there's a few things to talk about from last week as far as the stocks go and how things ran up. Like just because she's back in the crib. Esther, please tell me you have all your silver shares. Like all of them. Please, Lord, have mercy.
I don't even want to talk about it because it was the weekend of the Schwab transfer.
So
of
that's right.
course,
You got out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
But
damn
by
thing
the end
did what
of
the
the
damn thing was supposed to do.
yeah,
Silver String
but
is beautiful.
that's
Look at it.
fine. But by the end of the week, but you could have got back in Monday.
You know what? We were moving.
That's
I was
what.
not feeling it. And Monday was weird. And I was just like, you know what? I don't know. And I should have just jumped it. But live and learn. What are you gonna do?
No,
There's always
you're
another
good.
trade, right?
There is. But I
Now,
really thought you jumped
I will
because
tell you
you
though.
had had this like buy and hold strategy for this one. Like it's
Right.
gonna come back up. You
Yes.
had all the
Well, good
time in the
news.
world. So I was like, she's gonna get back in this. Like she's gonna wait for
Goddamn
the
Schwab.
transfer and she's
It
just gonna
was
get back
goddamn
in.
Schwab. That's it. That's it. And I didn't do it. And you know what? My wife held it and she's up so like 150% on her trades. She's very happy. So that's awesome. Lola's happy, everybody's happy. So I have a question though. If you look back at silver,
Yeah.
let me just pull up my chart because I have spot. Um so I realize that your all-time high says one thing, but if you actually go back to 2013, silver was actually went up to $31. And actually, if you keep going back, it's been
Oh,
very
okay. So
high.
it's one of
Yeah.
these. There
So
you
there's
go. Let me go
actually,
back. So
yeah.
let me just use the weekly. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
got time to
Yes.
scroll back like that. So the
Yeah.
all-time high of silver, the all-time
Well,
high looks
not
like
even the
48.
all-time highs are, yeah, really high. But if you go back to 2013, there's actually some very interesting candlestick work going on back there to show us where some of the next targets might be. So silver can, and I just read an article about gold and silver catching up to the market rally, and silver in particular, they kind of like, no matter what happens, silver is going to continue going up because it's not just a precious metal, it's a mining metal, right? It's needed for everything in technology that they build now. They need silver. So silver's benefiting from both sides of the coin, right? Like whether it's global growth or things that get weird and politically charged. Either way, silver's going to benefit. So this is like people have been talking about silver finally coming into its own again since 2013. So this is very interesting to me because I feel like while it looks like we're at an all-time high, we're actually not. We're actually
Right.
coming up upon things we haven't seen in literally what, 11 years.
Right.
So crazy, crazy talk.
Mhm.
Fun ride, maybe.
Oh, it's not potentially. I mean, I see what the data you're talking about. I'm looking at it from the weekly perspective.
Mhm.
Because it's coming back up over here. Now we have all of this to fight up against.
Hey.
So you're just gonna buy back in and hold this
Yeah,
or no?
I think so. I think that,
And,
no, I think
and just
I'm
work
waiting
on
for,
trusting and push it through your gut and not I don't know.
I was waiting for some kind of retracement, because it just went completely batshit crazy on Friday, which really broke my heart. So that's what I was doing is I was waiting for a decent entry point and it just finally took off. So whatever, it'll retrace eventually. So who knows? Global panic in the morning with the Iranian president missing. God, just please, Jesus, don't let anybody mention the word terrorism, because that could become World War III like immediately. So that's terrifying. And the markets don't like that kind of uncertainty, right? So let's see what happens tomorrow morning. Just saying.
I agree. I agree. We'll see
The
how it
sky is
goes.
falling. The sky is falling, right? Chicken Little. Here.
I know. I know. It's gonna be all of that. And that's why I was telling you about these movies coming out. It's gonna be interesting. All this. You talking about the presidents, everything coming out. This can bring an uproar and a World War III. Oh my God. Don't get me started. Um, yeah, just don't get me started. We'll leave that for another day. We'll stay focused on the charts right now. One of our talks where we're sipping tea and wine and things like that. All right. Oh, I didn't clear Apple. Um, all right, let's look at Apple together and we'll go from there. All right, so let's see. Weekly. Weekly came up and did its doggone thing. All right. Apple's been bouncing around like crazy. I'm doing a few different interesting candlestick patterns. But it seems like it's finally recovering in a way that may make some new all-time highs. We finally break above this 199. What potentially. Now, I don't like the fact that this dip is a little lower than this one, so I don't know how we want to trade this zone. But it definitely did, it gapped up, which was the biggest thing that it did. And I wasn't expecting that. So that kind of kept me out of Apple the past couple weeks. Okay. Overall, though, I'm not putting to, I believe it's coming for this like fair value gap up here, but I don't believe it will do it before pulling back and addressing some of these maybe little gaps down here. Apple doesn't like to keep too many gaps, and so I am even still worried about this big large gap. I don't trust it at all. Like Apple, I really don't. 186 is a small gap closed through the abandoned baby candlestick. The large gap, of course, goes from 183. Is that right? Yeah, 183 to 173. All right, is the large gap down. And so we'll see how, again, it may hit its head here, the fair value gap, close 193, because I think those two small fair value gaps can be dealt with fairly quickly. So at 193, I believe it could hit its head. It could bounce around. It could build up with some potential news, some, I don't know what's going on. And then we could fall. We'll just see how the market wants to do. Again, I'm not like overly convinced we're like on a hiatus run for another week. I'm not convinced of that just yet. So we'll take our time. SOXL did the damn thing. It came up at $47 last week. I was very happy in general about that. So there is the SOXL chart. If we scrunch it up really, really tight, we see how it pulled back here and then it's coming back up. I believe that at this point, it will just continue to probably chop up and want to continue out the rest of this candle at the top. So I have been eyeing a few contracts, trying to figure out exactly how long, how many days out I may want to take it to try to do that move. I am a little bit nervous about it. It's hitting its head and taking longer than I anticipate for it to do the move. So I'll give this Monday to take off and then I'll come back and check it. And you guys let me know how you guys feel about it as well, as far as XOXL go. But the top of this weekly candle closes here at 60. So I think it could potentially do that. Usually when price runs up and breaches through a fair value gap, but has a long bacon candle, we tend to like to finish out the bacon candle. So I wouldn't negate that theory just yet. The fair value gap is also still illuminated from this perspective. And we only have wicks in here. We don't have any bodies. There's no chaperones and not daycare, summer camp from that perspective. But with the chaperones and stuff. So I believe we can come back up here. All of the support fair value gaps do have bodies and chaperones in them. So we can leave them for a little while longer and come up this way. Of course, we left these for a while, but it is what it is. But I believe now I believe we have enough conviction in the chart. I don't have to put too many more lines on here to say we are pushing up this way. The daily, of course, is a little bit stagnant after its run up, right? But it made a nice little W as well. Of course, we have some few gaps, and I do believe, without a doubt, that SOXL has the potential to come and close the gap at $43. And I will most likely take my entry there to then write it back up. So I'll take the 43. That gap looks healthy enough to be done fairly quickly. It could bounce around it, but somewhere between 44, 43, try to take an entry up. From here, I will just go for this first daily mark. I'm not gonna go all the way for the gold at 60. I will be going for 52, right? I'll buy 2 months out and run it to 52 and see, where we go from there. And then try to take it to 60. I think I'm gonna do this in phases for SOXL. It's just my 2 cents there. Microsoft is now sending more about AI. I did see that, so I'll look into that for Apple and Microsoft. All right, so that's SOXL. Disney, I'm so glad we got the hell up out of Disney, girl. Look, Esther. Like, so it fell all the way through here. We kept eyeing this. We saw the kids in it. So really not surprised from the weekly perspective that Disney is down in the trenches here. Do I believe it may keep falling until it closes this at $98, $97? It's possible. It's highly probable. If I mark that level, what a solid line. Whoops. Solid green. As the weekly fair value gap close, and I come back to the daily, right? It's a little bit beyond the daily gap close. Okay. So we'll mark the daily gap close at 99. All right. And then, of course, I've just been watching it while it falls because I never trust these big ass guys falling to the bottom. I haven't found the secret sauce in trading them as much as I'm a mama bear trader to gap down. I just feel like sometimes they close all the way and sometimes they miss you short. So I have chosen to wait for them to finish doing their thing. And I'll take gaps up all day, but gaps down. I wait for them to finish bottoming out and then I go in. So I don't think this one's done bottoming out. I think it could potentially keep falling a little bit. And once I get some better support candlestick patterns here, then we could take Disney back up. Amazon to me just looks like choppy flat, like it's trying to grow, but it's just stuck. So Once upon a time I traded it, and lately it's just been meh. So I will just, I keep it on chart as a fan favorite. It sometimes really does have a decent move that I can take advantage of. But right now, I'm expecting it to possibly bounce off this daily fair value gap, open maybe one more time and find support at 179. If we could find support at 179, then we could probably get up. I'm not sure how we want to trade this area. We close the gap at 184. Great. There's obviously a lower gap from 175 to 173. But I don't trust this one as much because it has the Atom looking candlestick pattern down here. So with that, this may be enough to hold some support, and this fair value gap can continue to hold support. We'll just see how, the AI, other things affect it. Yep, we'll get to cat. I think it's next, Esther. I actually moved my watch list around and brought it up. Of course, we're gonna look at cat. All right. Any particular questions on Amazon before we get to cat? I mean, it's a little choppy sideways. Options is a little risky right now with things of doing slow movements. Well, I'll say single leg options is risky. Let me be very, very, very specific. Single leg options is a little risky right now because things are choppy. If you would like to play verticals, butterflies, certain spread combinations to capitalize off of small movement, then that is a better strategy. All right. Caterpillar. I thought about you last week with Caterpillar too, because I remember you telling us you were moving and things like that. Esther, like Caterpillar definitely
I'm so sad.
made
I
some
know.
run-ups into it closed the whole gap, like the whole damn thing.
Yeah, but if you back out a little bit, there's so many gaps on gaps on gaps in this stock. It's kind of nuts. So
Well, from the weekly. So let's start from the weekly and work our way down. Actually, I may start from the monthly. Let's take a peek at what we're doing mid-month here. All right, so from the monthly perspective, cat is like, I'm not coming down right now. like, I mean, come down to fill the fair value gap, maybe. Sure, $300. I know that's like a ways down from where we are currently trading, but when you look at it from this perspective, it doesn't seem so big. So we could let's just put this monthly line 305 is that monthly fair value gap close. And then weekly, I'm just leave that there because the top of it is kind of choppy. So from the weekly perspective, we have a weekly fair value gap that we dipped out of twice and turned around. Do I think it looks like an M? Yeah, I do. If you were thinking that, Esther, I agree. So just put that out
you
there.
heard me. It's awesome.
But that's the thing. If it's gonna be an M, that means it gotta come up first. So don't trade down too soon. You get what I'm trying to say? Like if you think it's gonna be an M, that means it gotta go up, then come down. If you think it's gonna, and then like it could be the tops of the M's can be uneven too. So we're gonna look into all that, but let's just get the support finish labeled here. Weekly fair value gap open, and then the weekly fair value gap close. 325 weekly fair value gap close. So the weekly fair value gap open 331, weekly fair value gap close 325. All right, and of course we have more kids left by themselves with a gap at 314. So I will label that like weekly fair value gap open with kids and gap or something like that. All right. Gap close or whatever you want to say. All right. So from here, we can put with kids actually. I want to change this label. With kids open. There's kids right here too. Not by themselves, but Maybe I should make that differentiation. 1 kid versus 2, 1 versus 2 wicks, 5 kids. The more kids, the less likely it doesn't come back as aggressively sometimes. Well, I can't even say that because sometimes like the smaller time frames, yes, I can say that. But these large ones, that 1 wick can really leave it there for a while. 2 wicks can leave it there for a while. So I'm just gonna not make that disclaimer and just say it left it. Can it potentially come back? Yes. All right. From the daily, we have quite a bit of gaps, but this gap down below 351 is closed. So I'm not going to mark that one. I would mark the one down here at 345. Right? 345 to 344. That's so small. I can't stand that one. I'm gonna just mark this because this is a close. Because if we break below that, which I don't have a lot of confidence based on the way this looks, that we could break. So I need the break. And then you can come in here and put smaller lines, but I think you'll find them on the 2-hour too. And they'll line up similarly. We have a gap closing at the top at 359. Right? 359, we gap at the top to close from the daily perspective. So 345 would be a gap open and 359 would be a gap close. And from the 2-hour perspective, it really looks like it's going to finish this gap at 359. The unfortunate part, Esther, is I think you'll wake up to it being closed. so once it finishes
Yeah, I
there,
agree.
we don't have we have this wick here which went through it. That's I don't know why this one's still illuminated. That's weird. The conviction to the top is not as strong past the 360 level,
I agree.
365 level.
Yeah.
I think it'll close this. It'll close this. It's gonna, I think
Okay.
363. You may be able to get that. And then from there though, and I actually think you may be able to get this 365. I ain't gonna lie, because there's something about the way this 2-hour is sitting here. And I know this wick is over here,
And
but
remember
you see how
too
this
that
candle's
the underlying fundamentals too is that 360, 359 is where CAT was before earnings.
okay,
Right.
let
So
me bring it down.
that's the gap was created by earnings, which to me
Okay, so
is
that's gonna
like,
bump its head.
okay, yeah, I think it might. I think it might. And that's why I don't even know if we'll get to I think it's going to depend on what the market around it is doing too. You
True.
know,
So
Caterpillar
when
is
I
pretty
actually
sensitive.
see potentially if Cat doesn't want to really fall, it'll come hit his head, come back down for the rest of the market, make a W, and then come up.
I just don't see it going any lower than like 346. You know, it might take
Three,
that fair
four.
value gap. It might take this first fair value gap at
Right. Not
345.98.
without the market giving us something.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No,
I
there have to be
agree.
something really freaking horrible, which nobody wants to
I
talk about.
agree.
I
I
don't
agree.
need
Because
that.
even I think, and if we have this long-term M coming up, it needs to come up first and then come
Yeah.
down. So
Because from
that
the
would
daily, it
align
looks
with
like it
that.
could. Well, because from the daily to me, it looks like it could be trying to like a struggling W because it still could come down to bounce back up.
I
So I
agree.
don't, but I don't know if it's going to do that. I agree with you. I think Caterpillar just wants to go up. I mean, that 382 is like, that's like rocking high, right? So I think that all the board of directors were just sitting around drinking during the day, high-fiving each other. So they want it. They want to go
Well,
back
there's
there.
this
But
little fair
I
value
don't
gap
know.
up here at
Yeah.
372. And last week we learned that ES did this same foolishness, left these little tiny ones and came back in here and
Yeah.
ate all that shit up. So just
It can happen.
saying.
And so it can happen. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
So
that's
okay,
why I was
we'll
like
see.
looking at that 365, that smaller one on a 2-hour, that like
Right.
I feel like it'll come up to even this one 366. And then if you get
Okay.
the right candlesticks patterns like we did on ES, it's just gonna keep going. So
I
like,
know.
and it will come up here and eat that one that because it's by itself up here. All okay,
Yeah.
let's do a few things.
Well,
This
let's
one
find
that
out.
does not been tested at all.
Nope.
This one has not been tested at all. And it's at the, let me just change up the colors and the dots a little bit. So 377 to 379 we come out to the daily. That's right at the top. Again, if it had to make an M, it would probably try to come high. But the daily, that's 372. So I like the fact that that's lower
Mm.
because it seems promising, especially if now look at it from the daily now. Let's just don't be sleep on it. All right. So if we come back up here, we clear it. But what if we do that whole like leave a bigger candle, leave some wick above here, then we're gonna be coming straight forward. So just try your might to pay attention on the smaller time frames of the like the
Okay.
signals that it's leaving if it's gonna keep climbing because
Mm.
I do believe these next like couple days we may just climb. I don't know why. I just feel like it's gonna go up a couple
Well, I think,
days and then hit its
and I
head or
think
like
it's
stall up or like do fake ups.
Monday or Tuesday, there's existing home sales, there's an announcement. I don't think we have a crib meeting though. So that might move CAT a little bit. Sometimes they tend to, anything housing related tends to help a little bit and affect them, especially if the news is
Mhm.
dramatic. So we'll see.
All right. I think we got a plan. I think overall we got a plan. I think up then down. That's what I'm going with. Until the
Yeah, I
market
think so
tells me
too.
something different. All right. What other tickers are we looking at? We did okay. Apple, SXL, Disney, Amazon, Cat. Of course, Lily and Nvidia. These are some of our more expensive ones that we just keep an eye on. If it gives us some fun, we do it. Right? Nvidia still looks very sideways to me, and so does Lily. So to me, I'm not really like overly enthused in charting them right now. AMD has a little bit more of a promising move, so we can keep an eye on Nvidia, see how the price is just fluctuating the percent change, right? But then we can come to AMD and we could potentially make some things happen. This particular pattern on the daily does look like it at the moment may test the fair value gap at 173. And that fair value gap goes from 172 or 173 area to 176. Let's come back out and look at the weekly though, before I get all ahead of myself. So the weekly, from my perspective, looks like it could still come down. As much as it bounced up, it looks like it's bouncing up. It could be a head and shoulders pattern. We do have weekly kids here left in the fair value gap. Weekly kid, whatever. All right. From 135 to 131 is a weekly fair value gap, and there is a candle wick in it. All right. So if we come back down to the daily, we see that weekly support is down below this order block here, which is great. We recognize that the, I would say, current candlestick pattern, larger pattern that we see is holding some support above the previous order block. So that's great. So that does give us a little bit of potential that price will come run up and finish clearing this order block before it may decide to continue and come back down. All right. Order block to fair value gap. Target is not ready yet. So like I said, we put this one on the chart because we're waiting on this particular larger fair value gap move that we're all just waiting to take. So if it does it, so we'll just continue waiting. It's just not ready yet, right? We see this large fair value gap on the weekly. It did pull back until its smaller weekly fair value gap to collect more buyers. And now that it has done so, and it may need to spend more time there, depending on what this market's going to do this week. And once it's done gathering, it will eventually make its way up, and we will leave it on a watch list so we can peek at it weekly and get into this position at the best time possible. I'll just leave it like that. Netflix, all right. It's been looking great overall, right? Nice big run from the weekly perspective. Came up and closed the top of this fair value gap / large candlestick, and it's kind of been chopping around. Pull back into a larger weekly fair value gap itself at around $550 area. And it has bounced off of that area multiple times. Now, it has come pretty high through a weekly fair value gap at the top at 645. It hasn't finished it though. I do believe that this situation may be setting up for a little bit of an M potentially, just to collect more buyers down further into this fair value gap. So what I'm seeing is that we run up back up enough to close out this small fair value gap at 645, and then we bump its head and turn back around, clear out the weekly fair value gap down here, and even potentially test back down to 561 or lower into the fair value gap on the weekly, which closes at 494. I don't want it to go that low. But if it wants to, that's where it's gonna go. Okay. So that's from the weekly perspective. Of course, that 561 of 494 from the daily perspective includes a large daily gap. Okay. So price is just kind of coming up here. This is a daily chart now. Netflix, it closed that gap. We may run up a little bit more. It could be very choppy. So please buy time if you're going to try to go forward. And then recognize the liquidity down here if we do pull back down. All right. We already looked at silver. Gold is similar, but silver looks way better than gold right now. Just saying. And so, but they both are in the positive direction. All right, and I'll kind of from there, USD JPY, since those markets are now open, and of course we'll go back to futures, but we'll peep at Forex. From the daily perspective, Forex is kind of making a weird little W shape. I was looking at it from the weekly, and I noticed that it does look like it may want to stay up some. It, of course, has some pullback it can do down into this lower fair value gap. So we do have a weekly fair value gap at 151, or from 151, 149. And this fair value gap is significant because there is wick left in it. All right, at 151. Of course, the close of the current fair value gap is at 151,929. And then if we come down to the daily, we see that we penetrated right on top of that. And now we are just figuring out how we were either going to hold support or break down. From the daily perspective, we also see that there is a daily fair value gap with a wick/kid in it. And so we could pull back down here as well. The 2-hour, I'm going to mark off this daily fair value gap close at the top here before I go at 156. So if I go to the 2-hour is trying to finish closing a larger fair value gap. It has two actually. So this is where it gets a little tricky. Of course, we have this first fair value gap close, which is right in alignment with that daily at 156. Based on the candlestick patterns, I'll have to wait and see if it's going to try to test back up at the top to close at 157 2-hour fair value gap, or if we're going to take the bottom out a little bit more first. This lower fair value gap that closes at 154. All right, on the 2-hour. So right now, again, another situation of you want the top or the bottom first. This is our overall trading range though. Where's my box? This is our overall trading range right now. Like, as we continue, we're looking at all this data back through here to see how we can capitalize on pips for my favorite Forex ticker. All right. And then once we break out of 157 or 154, then I'll better know where we're going to next. All right. Okay. Back to the futures. I expected it to bounce up like it is doing. I expect it to go to 53.37. I really do, because we're 12 minutes in. So of course, there's only like $5 left. $5 is money in this market, depending on how you'd want to trade it. So go ahead and take it. I would take it and hold it. If you can get a little bit of a retracement back down and get back in better, yay. But if not, no worries. I chose not to hold over the weekend. I got out and took profit on Friday, but I can yeah, I'm debating on what I want to do with this particular night trade tonight. Y'all know me, I prefer 8, 9 o'clock sometimes. Get a better move, but I do think this could happen by 8, 9 o'clock. It could be closer up there. So this may be the time to take this one. If you weren't already holding the position on Friday for it to finish up here. If you saw this coming up and you already held, then great. I will keep holding and let it finish. All right. Of course, you can put an alert right when it hits it. Because when it hits through the opening of it at 53.34, you may be able to get a little better retracement and then ride it back through there. Maybe emphasis, big emphasis on the maybe. I'm not sure how we want to feel tonight, right? Big emphasis on maybe. That's like the only move I really have for tonight until it happens. I think that's probably where it's going to go. Of course, it gapped up a little bit. So let's come out to the daily and zoom into the gap. So what I want to do is if this line is my 15-minute, let me go ahead and label it real quick. 15-minute fair value gap open. Then I'm going to take blue lines and do my daily like close to daily open. So this was the daily close, Friday close, however you want to label it. It's up to you. I don't usually label these. I just know that when I have these blue lines, the blue dotted lines on the chart, for me, that just means that it's the daily open and the daily close that or that I'm marking. Yeah, the daily close, the daily open, that's what I'm marking. So if you're gonna do it, I would recommend like a date to label it. I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to mess up my flow. But I'll recommend a date or something like that. I'm just gonna put the 2 lines here to mark it. Because I move them quickly. I just want to see once it happens, once this area kind of clears through, then I just remove the line. So they're not going to be here very long. So 53.29 to 53.27. We know price can come back through there. So once it reaches the 15-minute fair value gap, and potentially goes all the way through it, if we want to look at this, he'll come through here, right? Hit his head, owie, and then come down, and potentially close the gap for us, right? Emphasis on the potentially. But those are your possibilities and your options for tonight. All right. Any other tickers you guys really want to go into tonight that I just didn't, you want to do a more deep charting about? I gave more of a top-down analysis from the candlesticks perspective, and did our charting strategy from a few tickers that you guys had the most interest in when it came to fair value gaps and looking at tweezer tops and bottoms and things like that. So overall understand the strategy. But if you guys don't have any dying ticker that you want to finish looking at tonight, then I think we could be all set and ready for these next few days of, I'm expecting it to be a little slow. I hope it'll be exciting and fun. We'll see. We'll see what this week has. Just see. All right. So going once, going twice. Yep. How do we set the all-time high on the chart? So this is not all. So this one, what I did, it's labels. Okay. So let me start from the beginning. You're gonna move your cursor over like your y-axis, or yeah, this is the x-axis, y-axis here, your numbers, and you're gonna right click like we do to invert the scale, but you're gonna come down to the labels and you see high and low price labels. You turn that on. The all-time high. So what is not an all-time, I have to look for an all-time high. That may be like another indicator. What this is doing is basically is showing from where you're zoomed in at it's showing that high. So it's going to move the high and the low. So when you move the chart, so for instance, in this case, the highest point from the view is 53.49. This is a bad example because yes, let me go to something else that we know has higher stuff. Okay, like Target. Okay. So I'm on the 15-minute, okay, 2 hour. Where am I at? So see, because I'm on the 2 hour here, showing the low and then the high as I move it. And then see how it jumps up because I'm zooming out. And the more I zoom out, the more it jumps. So it's giving you the highest candle from the frame that you're in. Viewing frame, viewing. God dog it. Please tell me you get it.
I get it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Because I played with some other indicators in here. That is not what I'm gonna do. Indicator. See, all-time high, all-time low. You can get the all-time, but I think it's an indicator. And how did I do that? See, we would have to play with these and like with settings. I ain't see, I ain't no. This is why I don't like all these indicators. No, I'm not even going down that rabbit hole. To me, this is enough. And I'm aware of that. So I just know that, I need to be on the right time frame to see for that line to be the all-time high. And I'm done. And I'm good. I'm good with that. If y'all find an all-time high indicator that has that's just like clean to the point. No, we don't want a lot of foolery. All right. So if you guys find that, share it. Yay. We're getting stronger every day. All right, ladies. See you guys Wednesday. You guys trade safe. Of course, you guys know where to find me. And y'all take care. God bless. Ciao.